Okay, so if you're a parent, this is a question you've probably wrestled with. Is my teen's love of video games just a healthy hobby, or is it something more? Today, we're going to help you answer that question and give you the tools to know when it might be time to step in.
Let's start by looking at the numbers. The average teen is gaming for almost 2 hours every single day. But look at the difference here. Boys are spending well over 2 hours a day in front of that screen. And this gender gap, it's actually a huge piece of the puzzle, and we're going to see exactly why in just a moment.
Right, so when you see teens, and yeah, especially boys, spending so much time in these virtual worlds, it's only natural to wonder, where's the line? When does a fun pastime cross over into a real problem?
To really get why gaming can be so powerful, we have to look at what's happening inside the brain. Scientists call it a process addiction, which is a really crucial concept. It means the act of gaming itself, not a substance, can actually start to rewire the brain's reward system, and it does it in the same powerful way that drugs or alcohol can.
And look, this isn't just, a bunch of worried parents getting together. Gaming addiction is now a recognized medical condition. So, what does that actually mean? Let's break down the official diagnosis.
So back in 2018, the World Health Organization made it official and recognized gaming disorder. The diagnosis really boils down to 3 core things. They can't control their gaming, they start putting it before everything else in their life, and they keep on playing even when it's clearly causing them harm.
The science behind that compulsion is a super simple but really powerful loop. See, playing a game releases dopamine. That's the brain's feel-good chemical. That rush of pleasure feels great, so it reinforces the action, which then creates this intense craving that can be incredibly hard to resist. And that, right there, is what drives them to play more and more.
So what does this actually look like in your house, right? How can you tell if your teen's gaming is tipping over into a real problem? Let's get into a checklist of the big warning signs to watch out for. The American Psychological Association has a really clear benchmark for this. For a teen to get an official diagnosis of internet gaming disorder, they need to be showing at least 5 of the 9 official warning signs, and not just for a week or 2, but for a period of a year or more. So as we go through this next list, keep in mind we're not talking about just 1 or 2 of these popping up now and then. The APA is looking for a serious, consistent, and damaging pattern of behavior. Just ask yourself, does this sound familiar?
It's not just about the hours they're playing, it's about this obsession with gaming. Like they get super irritable or anxious if they can't play, and they start losing interest in everything else they used to love. But a couple of huge red flags for parents: lying about how much they're gaming, and when they keep playing even when it's clearly causing major problems at school or with their friends. That's a big one.
Okay, seeing those signs, that's step 1. But to really, truly help, we have to understand what's driving it all. Why do some teens get hooked while others don't?
This is so important. The reason they're playing makes all the difference. I mean, there's a huge gap between gaming for fun with your buddies versus gaming to escape from everything that's going wrong in your life. When it becomes that escape route to avoid tough emotions, that's when it's most likely to turn into an addiction.
And hey, remember that first chart we looked at showing how boys game more than girls? Well, this is where that really comes into play. It translates directly to a higher risk of addiction. One major study found that boys are more than twice as likely as girls to actually be diagnosed with gaming disorder.
So why the big gender gap? Well, a few things are going on. Brain scans actually show that gaming can light up those craving centers in the male brain more intensely. But maybe the biggest piece of the puzzle is cultural. Boys are often taught to bottle up their feelings, they're less likely to talk about what's bothering them, so gaming becomes this way to self-medicate, to cope with anxiety or depression they're not dealing with otherwise.
And this quote from researcher Sarah Coyne, who studied this for 6 years, man, it just hits the nail on the head. She says it's absolutely crucial for families to know the difference between harmless entertainment and when it becomes a very real problem.
Okay, this brings us to the most important part. If you're worried about your teen's gaming, what can you actually do? Let's talk about solutions, about the path forward.
Here's the thing. Just taking the game away, that's usually not the answer. Because the gaming itself is often just a symptom of something deeper, like anxiety, depression, or maybe feeling disconnected at home. The real goal, the hard work, is figuring out what's really going on under the surface.
All right, so here's a 4-step plan that parents can use. First, collaborate with your teen. Don't just dictate the rules. Work with them to set limits. Second, you've got to model the behavior you want to see. Take your own breaks from your phone. Third, help them find other, healthier ways to cope with stress. Get them outside doing sports, art, whatever works.
And finally, and this is probably the most important one, keep the lines of communication open. Create a safe space where they can actually talk about their feelings, especially if you have a son who's been taught not to.
So in the end, it really boils down to this one question. Is your goal just to control their gaming, or is it to actually connect with their world? Because if you can understand what's pulling them towards that screen in the first place, you're not just solving a gaming problem. You're building a stronger, healthier relationship that's going to last a lifetime.